Hi, my name is Brittany Fry, and this is my dog Hershey. I'm a first-time home buyer, and I just moved into my house recently. And I have two local experts here with me today. John Zimmerman from Buffalo Exterminating. Hi, thank you so much
Brittany.
for coming. And Susan Foster from Hunt Real Estate. They are here to help me protect my home and give me some advice on pest control and how to increase the value of my house. Well, thank you both for coming. Let's go debug my house.
Great.
Okay, so I'm just moving in.
Okay, that's great.
This is a room that I will spend most of my time in once I get furniture. But before I invested any money in furniture, I wanted you to just take a look and see if you see any areas that you would consider to be problematic.
Let's take a look first over here at some of the baseboards. These areas here where you can see
there's a space.
Brittany, see a pretty good space there.
Okay.
Pet hairs, dust, things like that can accumulate there that are pretty hard to get out of there. A little bit of caulk in there seals that out. It also prevents things like carpet beetles and fleas and other little critters like that like to get in and feed on that dust and the pet hair and that sort of thing. Other than that, the room looks good. Let's move on to the next room.
Okay. So this is my kitchen.
Have you seen anything in here?
I have. Over the past week, I've seen ants. Pretty much they're just surrounded in this area.
Okay.
Probably about a dozen a day I'm killing.
It's only been about a week you've been seeing
Only
them?
about a week.
Okay, pretty consistently every day?
Every day.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Tell you the biggest single area for at least carpenter ants, which may be what these are, is dishwashers. They're warm. There's plenty of moisture around the hot water lines. They love to get into the insulation. Everything's nice and clean here, but here I see you've been using some ant traps.
Yes, I did. I bought those last week.
Okay.
Are ant traps an effective way to eliminate the ants?
Yeah, they can be, but ants are real particular. Sometimes they like whatever food is in there.
Okay.
Sometimes they want something else. So using several different types of materials or products is usually a good idea for ants because they can be very finicky.
Anything else do you see in here that would be?
Well, let's take a look. When do you usually feed Hershey?
Well, morning, night.
Mornings? Okay.
I usually just leave the food down, to be honest with you.
Then one of the things you might want to just keep in mind is that as much food as we can eliminate, that's less attractive to any insects in here.
Okay.
This time of year, probably your carpenter ants.
Okay.
And dog food is a big thing for them.
Okay.
Good idea. If you're going to leave it there, if once Hershey's done feeding, empty the bowl out. I'd treat pet bowls just like we do our own. Clean it regularly because dogs will slobber on it, leave food scraps, things like that. It's great for insects to feed on.
Okay. Okay, John, so this is my bedroom. What types of things should I be concerned about in a bedroom?
Well, maybe one of the first things to be concerned with is bed bugs.
Okay.
We're in New York State, and New York is one of the two most frequent states for bed bug problems today.
Why is that, do you know?
A lot of international travel, a lot of people with New York City, and they move all over the state. Do you travel much?
Yeah, every couple of months I do.
You do? Okay. That may be one thing that we might want to talk a little bit about. Maybe we could take a look at your bed and just do a quick inspection there. I'll show you what to look for.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Bed bugs like to get up under these rolled seams on the edges of the mattress. Anywhere where there's a small area that the bed bugs could lay eggs. Any insects like to be in a crack where they can feel comfortable and they can feel safe. So right in here, and what you would see, it almost would look like a felt tip marker had been touched against there. There'll be a little small blackish red stain on that, and that's actually from their fecal droppings from blood meals that they've had. And
if I were to ever find bed bugs, how do you dispose of them? I mean, do you have to get rid of the mattress?
Yeah, well, first thing with bed bugs, there's a few pests that it's usually a really good idea to get professional help with, more than just because it's easier to do it yourself. Because bed bugs are probably the single most difficult critter to get rid of today. One of the things to keep in mind is you may not always see a pest problem. That's why it's important to regularly inspect. We said several times a year you may want to check for that. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean you don't have a problem.
Sure.
So that continued vigilance is important to pest control, especially when it's your home and you're trying to protect your investment.
Okay. And I know that there can be a lot of problems with pests in basements, so...
Well, you're absolutely right. There's a number of things that in basements, insects and mice and things like that, it's a real sit ground level. It's an easy place for them to get in many times, and they can follow electrical lines and plumbing lines up to the different portions of your house. So maybe what we could do is look around a little bit. We'll take a quick look and just see. These areas here on top of this, top of the foundation, that sill plate is one of those areas that insects can crawl through. We look around here and that looks pretty tight. And it looks like there's kind of a hole in the wall through those.
And you really do want to have that sealed up with mortar or something, because that the pipes are not vented properly, and that could be a source of carbon monoxide poisoning too. So that's something you really should do right away.
So I have a crawl space over here. I have one on each side.
Okay.
And I believe there's an entryway to the attic in there as well.
Okay, well let's just take a look inside. What we're looking for here, we obviously see a lot of spider webs. One of the other things that we notice right here next to the spider webs is this piece of insulation, and that's a paper backer on that, and all the holes, that's evidence of silverfish, which are very common in attics, especially if there's been a little moisture.
So John, this is my only full bath.
Okay. Well, in bathrooms, what we typically look for, there's only a few things, and it's a source of moisture. So we're looking for the sources of moisture to see if there's any drippage or things like that. The other thing is the pipes that run down to the basement will be an easy access for insects.
Okay.
So
how do you manage them if you do find a problem?
There's a couple of different ways. One is seal off the areas that they're coming in.
Okay.
With caulking and that sort of thing. If there's any water leakage, obviously correct that. And then there's injectable insecticides that we can inject into wall voids. There's ant baits that work very well. There's a couple of different ways that you can treat it once you find the problem.
Great. So this is my yard, and I'm looking for advice on how to maintain it. You know, what can I do to create better curb appeal?
To keep it clutter-free and as neat as possible without weeds. You don't want them to crawl out into the grass, because they can take over a yard in no time. And Brittany, in addition to pulling the weeds, you might also want to consider spraying. An herbicide would help out with the dandelions out there, because do you see across the median there?
Yes.
All those dandelions, well, those would pollinate and blow. See, they've started to come onto your property already. Okay. So if you use a regular herbicide, it'll take care of the problem. It'll help that out a lot too.
Okay. Susan taught me a lot of great tips on what I can do to improve my landscaping and my curb appeal. I think one of the really important things I learned from John today was that while I might not always be able to see pests, they're definitely in my home. And by properly using pesticides and herbicides, I can control them and protect the value of my home. Any advice I have to new homeowners, especially my friends, now that I know where pests lurk and where they live and where they can grow, it's important to hire an exterminator to come out and give a thorough assessment of the house, and I can teach them some ways of how to control them as well.